Hello, everyone. Today we'll have a look at the global marketing and world trade. We'll actually do this as a preparation for the textbook reading that we are supposed to do this week as a part of the readings in contemporary global issues. So I'm going to provide you a background on the global marketing and world trade, and we're going to go over the textbook article briefly. And then you actually have to write an essay. I mean, it's not an essay, actually, short answers for the two questions, which are related with the article that you're supposed to read. So let's get started. The rapid expansion of global markets and international trade has transformed the modern economy, allowing businesses to reach consumers across borders and integrate supply chains worldwide. Global marketing refers to the strategies companies use to promote, distribute, and sell products internationally, while world trade encompasses the exchange of goods and services between countries, facilitated by agreements, tariffs, and economic policies. Understanding global marketing and world trade is essential for grasping how economies interact, the role of multinational corporations, the impact of trade policies, and the growing importance of digital commerce. So this presentation explores these concepts along with statistical highlights that illustrate key trends in global business. So let's get started. So global marketing is the process of conceptualizing and implementing marketing strategies across multiple countries. Companies engage in global marketing to increase their reach, enhance brand recognition, and achieve economies of scale. So when entering international markets, companies face key strategic decisions that shape their global success. One major consideration is standardization versus adaptation. Whether to offer a consistent product globally, like Apple does with the iPhone, or to tailor offerings to fit local tastes and preferences, as seen in McDonald's regionally adapted menus. Successful global branding relies on maintaining a strong, recognizable identity while respecting cultural nuances. Iconic brands such as Coca-Cola, Nike, and Samsung achieve this by combining consistent brand messaging with localized campaigns and cultural relevance. Pricing strategies also vary across markets. Companies must navigate challenges like fluctuating exchange rates, tariffs, local taxes, and differing economic conditions that influence how products are priced in each region. Finally, choosing the right distribution channels is essential for global reach. Businesses may sell directly through exports, partner through franchising or joint ventures, or establishing a wholly owned subsidiary to manage operations and connect with international consumers effectively. The internet has made global marketing more accessible through e-commerce platforms, social media, advertising, and digital analytics. Companies use Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and Google Ads to target consumers globally. Influencer marketing and localized contents also help brands establish trust in different cultural contexts. So expanding into global markets requires companies to navigate a range of complex challenges. One of the most critical is managing cultural differences. Marketing strategies must be thoughtfully tailored to align with local customs, languages, values, and social norms. What resonates in one country may feel flat or even offend in another. In addition, firms must ensure legal and regulatory compliance in each country they operate in. This includes understanding and adhering to local laws on advertising, product labeling, taxation, and consumer protection. which can differ significantly across jurisdictions. Lastly, supply chain complexities present operational hurdles. Global trade involves managing logistics across borders, dealing with tariffs, and adapting to changing trade restrictions. These factors affect not only delivery times and costs, but also the overall availability of products in different regions. So addressing these challenges effectively is key to building sustainable international operations. World trade refers to the import and export of goods and services across international borders. It is influenced by economic policies, technological advancements, trade agreements, and geopolitical events. Countries tend to focus on producing goods and services they can create most efficiently, a concept known as comparative advantage. By doing so, they can trade with others to obtain what they lack, making the global economy more interconnected and efficient. To support this exchange, nations often enter into trade agreements like NAFTA, the European Union, or ASEAN. These agreements reduce barriers and facilitate smoother trade across regions. At the heart of modern global commerce are supply chains that span multiple countries. Companies often source raw materials in one place, manufacture in another, and distribute products globally, all to minimize costs and maximize efficiency. This complex coordination is made possible by rapid advances in technology. From AI to robotics to sophisticated logistics systems, automation now plays a crucial role in streamlining trade operations and enhancing productivity across borders. Now let's have a look at this table, which actually illustrates the major players in global trade. So let's have a look at the export side. So China remains the leading exporter with $3.58 trillion in 2024 and continued growth projected for 2025, driven by electronics, machinery, textiles, and high-tech products. U.S. exports hit $2.06 trillion in 2024 and expected to rise to $3.2 trillion, mainly in aircraft, medical equipment, and advanced technologies. Germany exported $1.6 trillion in 2024, with stable performance expected in 2025, led by automobiles, pharmaceuticals, and industrial equipment. Now let's have a look at the import side. The US leads in imports, reaching $3.35 trillion in 2024 and projected to hit $4.8 trillion in 2025, with electronics, oil, and consumer goods as top categories. China's imports were $2.59 trillion in 2024, expected to remain steady in 2025, focusing on raw materials and semiconductors. The European Union imported about $2.6 trillion in 2024, with growth continuing in 2025, particularly in energy, automotive parts, and electronics. So as you can see, China's exports growth continues to be driven by a mix of traditional manufacturing and high-tech sectors with a growing share of electronics and integrated circuits. And the US remains the leading importer with a widening gap between imports and exports, reflecting robust domestic demand for foreign goods. Germany's trade remains highly dependent on its automotive and industrial sectors with strong export performance on both the EU and global markets. The EU's trade profile is marked by heavy imports of energy materials and strong intra-bloc trade. And now let's have a look at the roles of international organizations that facilitate the international trade. So several major international institutions play crucial roles in supporting and regulating the global economy. The World Trade Organization serves as the primary body governing international trade. It sets global trade rules, helps resolve disputes between the countries, and works to promote freer and fairer trade across borders. The International Monetary Fund, IMF, focuses on maintaining global financial stability by offering economic advice, financial support, and policy guidance to countries facing balance of payments issues or financial crisis. Meanwhile, the World Bank plays a development-oriented role financing infrastructure and economic projects in emerging and low-income countries to stimulate growth and support trade capacity. Together, these institutions form the backbone of the global economic system. Tariffs, quotas, and sanctions are key tools in international trade policy, each carrying significant economic and political implication. We have tariff wars going on with the Trump administration, so I think it's very important that you guys understand the concepts of tariffs, especially. So tariffs are taxes imposed on imported goods, and these tariffs raise prices for consumers and can spark retaliatory trade wars, as seen in recent US-China trade tensions. Quotas, which place limits on the volume of certain imports, are often used to shield domestic industries from foreign competition, though they can reduce consumer choice and efficiency. Sanctions and embargoes, such as those imposed on Russia or Cuba, are politically motivated measures that restrict trade to exert pressure or signal disapproval. While effective in some diplomatic contexts, these actions often have broader economic consequences, both for the targeted nations and the global markets. Global trade is rapidly evolving due to technological innovation, ethical consideration, and geopolitical tensions. E-commerce is booming, with the global market expected to hit $7.4 billion by 2025. Platforms like Amazon and Alibaba make international selling easier, driven by consumer demand for convenience and diverse options. At the same time, there is increasing pressure for sustainable and ethical practices. Consumer and governments now expect companies to adapt eco-friendly and fair label policies. Artificial intelligence is also reshaping global marketing, enabling businesses to personalize campaigns, automate services, and predict trends more accurately. However, trade remains vulnerable to global instability. Conflicts such as Russia-Ukraine war and US-China trade tensions continue to disrupt supply chains, impact pricing, and shift market dynamics. So emerging markets like India, Brazil, Indonesia, and Nigeria are rising as key players in global trade, driven by growing middle-class populations and increased consumer spending. These regions are becoming attractive targets for international businesses looking to expand. At the same time, digital transformation, especially the adoption of blockchain, is revolutionizing global trade operations. Blockchain improves transparency and security in supply chains, while smart contracts and digital payments such as cryptocurrencies and mobile banking simplify cross-border transactions. Meanwhile, consumer behavior is shifting. Experience-based consumption is now more valued than material goods, and social media plays a significant role in shaping buying decisions. Subscription services like Netflix and Spotify also reflect changing consumption habits across global markets. So global marketing and world trade are interconnected forces driving the modern economy. Businesses must navigate cultural, economic, and political landscape to succeed internationally. With advancements in digital marketing, AI, and blockchain, global commerce is becoming more efficient and accessible. However, challenges such as trade wars, supply chain disruptions, and sustainability concerns require innovative solutions and international collaboration. So this is the end of the background information that I've prepared for the textbook reading. So let's go on to the textbook articles that we always read. So let's have a look. So today's article, the title of today's article is Marketing on the Global Stage. And it's written by Michael R. Solomon, Greg W. Marshall, and Eleanor W. Stewart. So this following article is taken from a textbook entitled Marketing, Real People, Real Choices, 8th edition. In this reading and throughout the book, the authors look at the value, ethics, and effectiveness of different marketing strategies and tactics in the US and throughout the world. So let's get started with the first paragraph. So here's an important question. Do you primarily see yourself only as a resident of small town, USA, or as a member of a global community? And I think this is a very important question that you guys all have to ask. Are you a citizen of Korea, or are you just representing the small town that you live in? Or do you actually identify yourself as a citizen of the world? And having this varied identity is very important because it actually changes the perspective that you have on many of the issues that you will face in your life. And there's this term for the global citizen. It's called cosmopolitan. And cosmopolitan actually comes from this Greek word cosmos. And cosmos basically means universe, right? So cosmopolitan, basically means, it's a sort of a term that designates a person who has lived in many different countries around the world, and so that he or she has very sort of diverse perspectives, and considers himself or herself as a world citizen. But more so, I think that word cosmopolitanism signifies this universe, perspective. So, whether you have this perspective on the universal scale, or just a very small scale, based on your education or the reason that you're coming from, or even the ethnicity, so it sort of narrows down your perspective. So the reason that you're studying all these like different topics, like global issues, contemporary global issues, and you're studying all these different subjects, spanning from like trade, marketing, international relations, like ethics, and like communications, and all these like diverse subjects is to have that universal perspective. So remember this word cosmopolitan or cosmopolitanism. So having this cosmopolitan perspective is very, very important. All right. So the reality is that you and all your classmates are citizens of the world and participants in a global marketplace. It is likely that you eat bananas from Ecuador, drink beer from Mexico, and sip wine from Australia, South Africa, or Chile. When you come home, you may take off your shoes that were made in Thailand, put your feet on the cocktail table imported from Indonesia, and watch the World Cup football match being played in Brazil or Canada on your smart TV, or checking your Facebook page on your smartphone, both made in China. This is very funny. So I had a very good Chinese friend when I lived in Oxford, and she was just making this fun that, um, Elon Musk, with his companies are making the rockets to send them to the Mars or to the moon, but actually at the exterior of the rockets will say made in China, because most of the interiors, uh, the things inside, which actually make up the whole robot or the rockets, actually made from China. So she was just making fun that, unless you have a good relationship with China, because most of the goods and most of the materials inside are made from China. So you guys better pay attention, because like everything from like very small goods to like rockets will be made in China. Unless you have a good relationship with China, we won't be able to make this high tech sort of gadgets or um, high tech sort of inventions. So she actually made this comment when she was like studying in Oxford. So I think it was like 12 years ago, but it's actually happening right now. We have this trade wars between US and China, and and people are actually predicting that after like 2 or 3 months, you won't be able to find goods in many of the grocery stores in US, like Target, because a lot of the goods are basically from China, and even the medicine, a lot of the basic medicine are imported from China. So so unless you have a good relationship, you can't just make huge tariffs on the Chinese goods, because it will be retaliated, and this is what's happening right now. So we are actually living in a very globalized world, as you can see. So, whether you have this narrow perspective or universal perspective, I mean, it actually matters to you, because you actually live in this like globalized world, and having that perspective and then the view and then the knowledge, the global knowledge, is very important, because it actually affects the minute details of the life that you're living. So hopefully, you also have some knowledge and concern for important world events, such as the recent Ebola epidemic in Africa. I mean, this article was written like 12 years ago, so the author don't really know the impact of the COVID that we have recently experienced. So this is happening in a very large scale nowadays. And terrorist attacks in Europe, we had 9/11 in the US, and recent developments in North Korea and Syria. And you may even be looking for an exciting career with a firm that does business around the globe. And I think a lot of you guys will actually work in this context, work in multinational company or institution. So, having this knowledge and perspective, again, this cosmopolitan perspective is very important. Firms doing business in this global economy face uncertainty in the future of the global marketplace. For a number of years, consumers and world leaders have argued that the development of free trade and a single global marketplace will benefit us all, because it allows people who live in developing countries to enjoy the same economic benefits as the citizens of more developed countries. Yeah, it's partly true, because with the increased sort of trade, and I mean with the exchange of people, a lot of migration happens. I would, when you actually after you've studied, maybe like 2 or 3 years, I would really recommend you to go into the UN website, and they have all these like migration reports, and just reading the executive summary of the migration reports, actually make you dumbfounded, because of the flow of goods and people across the borders, and it is happening. And so you really have to see how the globe is being integrated, and is all interrelated nowadays. All right, so the next page. There are other reasons that many leaders want a single marketplace. One important reason comes from fears that the greenhouse effect may threaten the future of the planet. What is the greenhouse effect? In simple terms, our factories and automobiles continue to pump more and more carbon dioxide. The most important of the greenhouse gases into our atmosphere, while at the same time we cut down the rainforests and reduce the amount of oxygen that the trees add to the atmosphere. This increase in greenhouse gases causes the earth to get warmer, just like a greenhouse provides a warm place for tender plants. The results many believe is global warming, a warming of the earth which will have disastrous effects on the planet. These fears have caused many to demand international agreements that would force industries and governments to develop and adhere to the same environmental standards to protect the future of the planet. Yeah, this is very important. Climate change is one of the most important issues being discussed by the world leaders nowadays. And, with all the weather changes, extreme sort of natural disasters around the world, you can see that, a greenhouse effect is happening. So I think the European Union has implemented this regulation and rules which actually um, add price according to the amount of carbon dioxide that the services or the goods produce. In the process of in the production process, or as a result of the service being made. So they have all this scheme in ready, but with the U.S., the President Trump coming in, and with all the trade wars, the U.S. apparently is trying to get rid of this the scheme according to the amount of carbon dioxide emitted by the products, or produced by the services. So but still, the climate change is a very important issue that you guys have to look into. Of course, there is another side to the issue of a single marketplace. The Arab Spring, a series of anti-government protests and uprisings in a number of Arab countries that were largely aided by new social media tools available to people in the region, gave hope to many that dictatorships in countries in the Middle East would become democracies and bring a better life to peoples of the countries. Instead, new violent radical groups such as ISIS took over large portions of these countries. This was accompanied by a growing number of terrorist attacks in other parts of the world, causing citizens and country leaders to propose greater restrictions on immigration and on trade with countries that aid or harbor terrorists. At the same time, the decrease in the price of oil has increased concerns about the downturn in the global economy, where each individual country will want to protect its own industries. Yeah, so the terrorist concern is a big one, especially for the US, so I think Trump administration is trying to impose a stricter immigration policy, especially from sort of what they perceive as dangerous countries, with the terrorist groups in the Middle East. And also they have a very strict policies, border control over Mexico, because a lot of the cartels, the drug cartels, they actually come in through the borders from the Mexico. So we have all these more stringent restrictions coming down with the immigration policy, but I think the flow of the people and the goods around the world is sort of inevitable. I think it's going to be accelerated regardless of the restrictions that different countries impose, because it's just with the technological development, with all this media access, people get to see what's like in the other countries. And it's true, especially for Korea, right? We live in liberal democracy, South Korea, and North Korea is perceived as the most a severe form of dictatorship country in the world. It has the least freedom index in terms of religious freedom. So people there are most persecuted people in the world in terms of their religious freedom, and freedom of speech, with all these civic liberties that are guaranteed in liberal democratic countries like South Korea or the US or the UK. So, but then with the internet, with the mobile phones, and with the social media, with everything, with all these technological and media sort of gadgets and developments, people actually get to see, what it's like outside there. So I think it's going to inevitably lead to the more rapid sort of exchange and inflow of people from the developing countries with less sort of the least free countries to more free countries. And you may be asking, what do these current events have to do with marketing? Yeah, so this is a very good question that you can ask. Whether we like it or not, we are a global community. Yes, for sure. Everything that happens in any part of the world has a potential to influence what marketers need to do to be successful at home and around the globe. Yeah. Because I mean, we're just so much interconnected these days with the media platforms. So I think, this is a very important perspective that you guys have to have. I mean, so people know, people know and do know, and they have an idea what's going on around the world. So having this taste about people, different people's perspective, their cultures, and their sort of, I don't know, like their flavors. It's very important for, especially for like marketers who want to succeed and prosper in the global scale. The global marketing game is exciting and the stakes are high, and it's easy to lose your shirt. Competition comes from both local and foreign firms, and differences in national laws, customs, and customer preferences can make your head spin. Yeah, because we are bombarded with all this information around the world. So sometimes I think a lot of us feel that, we want to be sort of protected in a way. We want to have this inner peace because it seems as if like this world is changing so fast, so rapidly, and we're just surrounded by so many diversities. So sometimes, having this consistency or having the root perspective or having the root in a way in our identity and our culture, it's becoming more important. So I think there are two sides of the coin. So rapid inflow and exchange of goods and services, like all the exchange, but at the same time, there's a thirst by people to remain rooted and sort of intact. All right, so next page, we're looking into the world trade. World trade refers to the flow of goods and services among different countries, the total value of all the exports and imports of the world's nations. In 2009, the world suffered a global economic crisis that resulted in dramatic decrease in worldwide exports. Today, we see increasing growth in world trade with world exports of merchandise increasing from $12 trillion in 2009 to nearly $19 trillion in 2014. Just how much is $19 trillion? Think about it this way. A recent lottery prize grew to a whopping $1 billion. If a lottery awarded to a $1 billion prize every day, it would take more than 50 years to equal $19 trillion. Of course, not all countries participate equally in the trade flows among nations. Understanding the big picture of who does business with whom is important to marketers when they devise global trade strategies. See, we have this term, big picture here, right? Since you guys are living in a global, fast changing, globalized world, it's very important that, to have this big picture perspective and thinking. And that's why I'm just emphasizing this so much. You can actually get all the information and you can acquire all the knowledge from the AI tools. But, having this perspective, big picture perspective and big picture sort of view, and it can't be replaced by the AI tools. You just have to have it inward. And that's why, nurturing this perspective is a lot more important than the knowledge or the information that you gather or learn from the textbooks, okay? It's often a good thing to have customers in remote markets, but to serve their needs well requires flexibility and the ability to adapt to local social and economic conditions. For example, you may have to adapt to the needs of foreign trading partners when those firms can't pay cash for the products they want to purchase. Believe it or not, the currencies of as many as 100 countries, from the Albanian lek to the Uzbekistan sum. Is it sum or sum? Please let me know, my Uzbekistan students, are not convertible. You can't spend or exchange them outside the country's borders. Right, so that's why the US dollars, Japanese yen, the European euros, and the UK's pounds, they are actually used as exchangeable currencies. So they are the most exchanged currencies in the global market. So if you have these currencies, then you can actually trade your goods most freely in the global market. So a lot of these developing countries, especially the elites and the rich people, they actually have dollars, because their currencies can be lowered very soon with all this inflation and with all the domestic sort of turmoil that's happening. But if you have the dollars, then you can basically exchange whatever you have with the foreign partners. So that actually acts as your surviving tool. And it is happening in North Korea as well. Okay, let's go on. In other countries, because sufficient cash or credit simply is not available, as I said, trading firms work out elaborate deals in which they trade or barter their products with each other, or even supply goods in return for tax breaks from the local governments. This counter trade accounts for as much as 25% of all world's trade. Yeah, so these companies or these traders in developing countries, they don't have cash. I mean, they don't have the exchangeable currencies. Their local currencies don't work in the international markets, so they actually barter. What do you mean by barter? Barter is like exchange of goods versus goods. You exchange your bread produced in Uzbekistan with the gold in UK. I'm sorry, it's not a good comparison, but still, so normally if you have the exchangeable currencies, you actually by trading the goods, the services that you provide, you get the cash, or you can actually pay your own local currency with the goods and services that you buy. But a lot of these developing countries don't have that sustainable sort of financial system, and their currencies are very weak, and not exchangeable, so they actually get to barter. And our ever increasing access to products from around the world does have a dark side. The growth in world trade in recent years has been accompanied by a glut of unsafe products: toys with lead paint, toothpaste containing poisonous, oh, this is a difficult word, a diethylene glycol, I think is a kind of chemical, and more recently, crayons laced with cancer-causing asbestos, many of which have come from China. Yeah, that's why Chinese goods are blamed for a lot, because, yeah, I mean, people seem to have more sort of concern for monetary gains, so they put less emphasis on sort of health aspects. In 2014, the European Commission's early warning system for dangerous products reported a notable increase in alerts of unsafe products. Of the more than 2,000 alert issues the Commission received, almost two-thirds of the unsafe products came from China. Although most Chinese manufacturers make quality products, some unscrupulous producers have damaged the reputation of Chinese manufacturers and prompted US and European officials to increase their inspections of Chinese imports. I think this still goes on. I mean, Chinese, people and Chinese companies are actually producing very high tech services and like products nowadays. So, there are like really nice products being made from China, but I think this is because of the range of products and goods made in China is just so wide, so it's so varied. So a lot of they at the same time they produce like very unsafe goods and products, and it still continues. Right, so the last set of questions come in. So should we go global? When firms consider going global, they must think about this in 4 steps. Step 1, go or no go. Is it in our best interest to focus exclusively on our home market, or should we cast our net elsewhere as well? Step 2, if the decision is go, which global markets are most attractive? Which country or countries offer the greatest opportunity for us? Step 3, what market entry strategy, or rather, what level of commitment is best? It is pretty low risk to simply export products to overseas markets. On the other hand, although the commitment and the risk are substantial, if the firm decides to build and run manufacturing facilities in other countries, the potentially greater payoff may be worth the extra risk. Step 4, how do we develop successful marketing mix strategies in these foreign markets? Should we standardize what we do across all the countries where we operate, or develop a unique localized marketing strategy for each country? So these are the set of questions that you can ask, but as I said, this article was written like more than 10 years ago, so these questions even are a bit outdated with the technological development with the AI, with all these like social platforms and with the translation tools. I think you guys have a lot more potential to internationalize the whatever services or the goods that you want to sell. I mean, even this lecture is automatically translated into, it can be automatically translated into like different languages if you use the tool in YouTube. I'm speaking in English, but if I were to just translate it into Korean, it can work, right? And it's vice versa as well. So if you prepare, whatever the marketing page in Korean, and then it automatically sort of with all these AI tools, can automatically translate it into different languages, like more than 100 languages. And with the AI, you can use Sora as a recent sort of video platform developed by ChatGPT, and you can make 5 seconds video for free. The quality is amazing. And if you pay some more, you can make 20 seconds sort of promo video for your good product or service very easily. Previously you would have to hire like a lot of like graphic designers and like with all these like experts, but no need nowadays because of the development in AI. So a lot of people predict that one person company is going to be very flourishing, in the near future. And I think a lot of the young generation, I see a lot of 20s and like 30s people in their 20s and 30s, even in Korea. And some of them, I'm actually mentoring them. They're actually doing great businesses. It's just one person, but with all the AI tools, they're doing great businesses. And I think it's going to be more preponderant in the future, in the near future. So you guys think about what are the creative ways that you can internationalize. I think with the Korean wave, or Korean drama, Korean music, the influence, you can actually reach out to a global market very easily, a lot easier than before. So think about creative ways that you can use the AI tools and like other platforms to internationalize your services and products, and even think about ways how you can personally brand yourself. How you can develop your personal brand and actually internationalize it globally. So, okay, so this is the end of my video. I hope you have enjoyed it. So I think that today's assignment is to write short answers in 1 or 2 paragraphs of the 2 questions. I forgot the exact number of the page, but I think you will have it in the email that I sent you. So write down short answers in 1 or 2 paragraphs of the 2 questions that you choose out of the 5 questions in the page. All right, so hope you have enjoyed it. I'll see you next week. Bye bye.